All right, so I'm going to show you how we build up a Power BI desktop file from original data and what we use to drive analytics in the finance function. So what I'm doing is I'm opening up Power BI Desktop. This is a free download from Microsoft.com. The first thing I'm going to do is to get data. So I come here to this get data function, and you can see a very wide variety of data sources that we use, starting with very simple files like Excel, CSV, SQL Server, Access, or Analysis Services, third-party databases, including Oracle, IBM DB2, Sybase Teradata, connections directly into Azure, and then a wide variety of other data sources widely used, such as SAP HANA, Salesforce. We also have RScript, which is a statistical programming language, fully integrated into Power BI, and a very wide variety of others. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use Excel. So I'm going to connect back to an Excel file right here. And in this file, I have 6 tables. 2 of these are fact tables, 4 are dimension tables. Now I have a choice here. I can either load directly into Power BI Desktop, or I can edit prior to bringing this data in. I need to make a couple changes. So here, my first fact table is the plan. You can see these dimension columns here, and then there are 2 data columns. First is budgeted sales, the second is forecast sales. My actual table has very same structure with these same dimension columns, with one crucial difference, and that difference is that each month has its own column. So what this means is that these 2 tables have different structures, and I can't join them in their current condition. However, it's easy using Power BI Desktop to make changes to these tables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpivot these columns. And in one fell swoop, what I've done is I've brought down all those months into a single column. Now, for a low-tech finance guy like me, this is almost magic. Before, what I would have to do is copy all my dimension columns down 12 times and then move each month's worth of sales down to 12 times as well. Now, I'm going to change this name, so rename attribute to period, and I'm going to rename value to actual sales. Okay. Now I'm ready to bring my data down into Power BI Desktop, so 2 things are happening here. First, data is coming down in. Secondly, a data cube is being created right here. So here are my 2 fact tables, where I have FY12 actual, FY12 plan, product, and geography. I need to go back in, having forgot to do one thing, and that is to change type here for period from text to whole number. Okay, close and apply. And then this will allow me to do my join from period to period. Okay, now I'm going to write some measures against this data. First measure will be in my FY12 actual table. Actual equals sum actual sales. Okay, my next one will be budget. So this is budget, plan, budget sales. Okay, next is B2B, which is variance to budget, and this is actual minus sales. Actual minus budget. And you can see this formula language that I'm using is called DAX. It is very similar to Excel. So if you know Excel, you know a great deal of DAX already. Finally, I have variance to budget percentage is divide, BTB, and budget. And I'll format this one as percentage. Okay. And now I'm ready to start creating some visualizations. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in my geography fields. So here I have Central and Eastern Europe and Western Europe. I'm going to pull in these measures that I've just created, and then create just a card to use as reference, so we can look at whole numbers. Okay, for my first visualization, I'm going to look at country, and actual sales. The default here is a map. However, I'm going to use a bar chart and add data labels. Okay, and then I can format these data labels into millions, copy and paste over here, and exchange variance to budget for actual. Now, move down, I'm going to create actual by quarter. So here, I'm going to add in this quarter as a dimension, and then bring in pricing level and product as further dimensions. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a drill down path right here. Now, change type to column, come up one level to actual sales by quarter. Now copy and paste, and pull out actual, put in variance to budget, and move pricing level up one. And then finally, my last visualization is variance to budget by product. So all I'm going to do here is pull product up and look at variance to budget by product. Finally, I'm going to sort actuals. So sort by actual, change this to A to Z. Right here, sort variance to budget by VTB, and now sort A to Z. And having done that, I'm going to use some of the visualizations that are available in Power BI Desktop that are more modern than just these bar charts. So I'm going to change actual to a tree map, and I'm going to change variance to budget to a waterfall chart. So in Excel, to create a waterfall chart, you have to do a great deal of formula writing here. It's just one click and you're done. So in 5 minutes, I've done a lot of things, right? I've accessed a remote data source, I've brought data down, created a data model, written measures against that, and then finally created an interactive visualization that we can use to analyze sales in Western Europe. So, Chrissy, my goal here is to be super quick and super fast. It's to show people, not to explain a lot of things to let them see what I'm doing, not explain a lot of things. Because it gets to watch this take 12 minutes, people get bored by it. Right? You lose your audience if you take that long. So here I've already created this. Now the next thing I do with this is I recreate a meeting, and it's total fiction what I say, but it allows people to really see how this is used. As opposed to demonstrating technical features, I'm demonstrating impact to the business. And what I want to do is have them imagine that they're using this tool to run their own business. So now listen to how I run this. So I would like you to put yourselves in the place of country managers from Western Europe. You have flown in to Redmond at the end of FY12, the beginning of FY13, to review your FY12 performance results. Now, to become a country manager in Microsoft, you've probably been here 10, 15, 20 years. You started out as a salesperson, become sales manager, director, and finally country manager. So you're a very competitive-driven person. You're paid 3 ways. One, you're paid on do you hit your budget. Secondly, we have specific targets for new business, and what new business is, it's getting new sources of revenue from new customers. Renewal is renewing a 3-year enterprise agreement, and recurring is the annual recognition of that 3-year revenue stream. So because new business is so important, we have specific goals against that. And finally, your stack ranked against other countries in your area. So what that means is that every month, the Netherlands country manager is comparing his performance to what the Finland country manager is doing, or Portugal, or Italy, etc. So walking into this room, there was one country manager who was feeling really proud about his performance. Who is that? It is Ireland. So Ireland is the second biggest area. Denmark is the first biggest area. But if we look at variance to budget by country, you see that Ireland had the largest overperformance. So the Irish country manager was feeling really good about what he'd done. He also knew that everyone else in the room would be able to see his performance, so he was feeling a little bit proud as well. Now, my business partner, the vice president of sales for EPG, asked me, Jeff, please pivot to Ireland. I want to see what was done there. So I click on Ireland, and now we are just looking at Irish-related data. And here's what I see as the analyst. One, I see that Q4 in Ireland was not as big as Q3. And if you look at the overall trend for Western Europe, Q4 is the biggest. And in fact, Q4 is the biggest for any subsidiary in Microsoft. So to have Q3 bigger than Q4 means something strange happened. Secondly, I see that there's a big miss in new business in Ireland. So in one click, the country manager from Ireland, who thought he just was the greatest, it has a significant miss in new business. My business partner asked to look at new business, so now I'll click on new business, and now we're looking at new business-related data. Here's what I see. I see that not only did Ireland miss, but Ireland had the biggest miss of any country in Western Europe, while Denmark which had a medium overperformance for all sources of revenue, had the biggest overperformance for new business. So in 2 clicks, the Irish country manager has gone from the guy who knocked it out of the park to the guy that blew new business. And the Danish country manager is feeling much better about her performance because she's just demonstrated that she did a great job with new business. Now, the vice president was really concerned about new business in large part because she's also compensated based on worldwide attainment for new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this and over here enable drill down, and you can see the drill down path that I've created here in the axis. So we're going to drill down into new business and first look at new business by quarter, and we see strong overperformance in Q1, Q2, a slight miss in Q3, and then we fall off the cliff in Q4. To go one level deeper, here's the miss that we see in Ireland, $13 million. We expected this. But look at this. Denmark also had a really big miss in Q4. So for all of FY12, Denmark had 10 million overperformance, but in Q4, they missed by 10 million. So very rapidly, we've established something of vital importance to running our business, and that is that our 2 biggest areas in Western Europe blew new business in Q4, which ended just 3 weeks prior. So we go one level deeper and see that in Denmark, the miss largely comes from the server and tools business. We can check in Ireland and see that it's a different product, mostly Office, but nonetheless, we have a real big miss from our 2 largest subsidiaries. So the vice president in that meeting right then made 2 decisions. The first decision was to send one of her senior directors to Western Europe with the instruction to go to Ireland, go to Denmark, and stay there until he understood the problem and then put a fix in place. And then to me, live in that meeting, she said, Jeff, I would like you and your finance team to undertake a deep dive study of Western Europe, and while you're doing that, also look at Central and Eastern Europe to understand if what we saw in Ireland and Denmark was not an early indication of a more widespread problem that we're facing in new business. Now, put yourself in the place of people attending a meeting where we were using a PowerPoint deck. If that was the case, this would be the front page. If my business partner had said, Jeff, tell me about Ireland, I would have said, all right, let's flip to page 42. But if she had said, Jeff, tell me about the new business variance to budget in Q4 by country and by product, my data never would have been that deep. I never would have had that in the deck, and I would have had to say, I'm sorry, I'll have to get back to you in a couple weeks. And our chance to make those decisions that we did in the meeting would have been lost. So it changes the way we run meetings. It also changes my role. My role now is to know the business, to know the data, to create a compelling visualization, and then to know the story, to know that the Q4 miss in Ireland and Denmark new business is the key story, to communicate that to my business partner prior to the meeting and make suggestions to her about the actions she should take in the meeting. 1, send the senior director to Ireland and Denmark. 2, instruct me in front of those country managers to undertake this deep dive study. So do you see the difference, Christy, between just showing the build and showing how people would use this in a live meeting?
Yeah.
So, I've now done this probably 150 times, and this story told in this way has real resonance with audiences when I present it.
Yeah, that's great. Because the ones I went to actually they did show the what I call it, the airfare, right? Which they explain lots of things in the airfare in terms of how you use that to drive immediate actions at the meetings.
Yeah, but
so I think you're using this one to do that.
Right, because the story here is better than the airfare story.
Okay. I don't think I see the Excel file that you used on the share on the finance showcase share. Is that someone you created or?
This is the same data as the one you did. I just split it up.
Yeah, because the one I used it also it's like the fake name and stuff, right? So you cannot really put into like the map and stuff.
Right.
So can you send this to me?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I'll also see if I can send you the recording that we just made, and then I'll send you both the Power BI desktop file and the underlying Excel files. And,
awesome.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll use the weekend to practice all that. So do you want me to schedule a follow-up with you on Monday so that I can do a kind of a mock demo with you before the actual meeting?
I don't have time for that. So practice it. If you think you're good enough, go ahead and do the build part. I will do the story part. Okay? If you think you're not, if you think you're not good enough, then you can observe. But my suggestion is that either stick with the one that you showed me, but get much tighter on it, meaning practice it 10 or 15 times, or get this one, practice it 10 or 15 times. It's up to you which one you use.
Yeah, I really like this one, so let me do that.
Okay, but practice it a lot, right? You have to practice.
Yeah,
practice.
I will definitely. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.